In football, Port Adelaide has announced a 4-year contract extension for captain Travis Boak. The 25-year-old is the 5th player to sign on with the club this week, as both South Australian clubs start a 2-week Christmas break.
It's a massive Christmas present for power fans. Targeted throughout 2012 by rival clubs, Travis Boak has committed to Port Adelaide until at least the end of 2018.
You know, the stuff I went through last year was just making sure, Mum and the girls were all happy, and now I just feel a lot more settled, and I've got my sister moving over now, and it really feels like home here.
His signing has capped off a happy week for the club, following the signings of forwards Jay Schultz and Jake Need, as well as midfielders Brad Ebert and Hamish Hartlett.
I think you look at that and you see it as a sign that they're, I suppose, not comfortable, but they know the direction the football club's going, and it's one they agree with. And we've worked around the fact that we want to get quality people into our football club, good characters from a playing point of view.
Meanwhile, at West Lakes, the festive season seems to be anything but, with Crows coach Brenton Sanderson refusing to ease up on pre-season training during this week's oppressive heat. He stopped short of cancelling Christmas, but wants the Crows to boost their aerobic capacity in readiness for next season's cap on interchanges.
I'd love to keep going. The Christmas break always comes at an awkward time for us because we really feel like we're up and about.
However, there's one gift he won't be able to open until at least the start of the season, a fit Taylor Walker, who's progressing well from a knee reconstruction.
I'm really excited about the shape that he's in. He looks really fit, no setbacks at all at this point. So, we'll have our fingers crossed, as with our supporters, that he can be up and going for the start of the season.
Both clubs will return in the new year with an eye on one another as they prepare for a pre-season cup clash in February. Joe Sullivan, ABC News, Adelaide.
Organisers of this year's Bay Sheffield say competitor numbers continue to grow for the state's most famous foot race, and they say it's the state's junior sprinters who are leading the way.
Jamari Sanderson-Miller is part of a new wave of SA sprinters and tipped to go far in this year's Bay Sheffield. The 20-year-old had a brush with the world's best earlier this year, travelling to Jamaica to train with Jamaican national coach Maurice Wilson, a mentor to Usain Bolt.
It was an eye-opener, like the way they train, how hard they train. It definitely made me want to train even more and all that stuff. And I found that what I bring back from Jamaica has made me a better athlete already.
Bay Sheffield organisers say Jamari is one of a growing number of young sprinters who've decided to stay with the sport.
The issue used to be that Little Athletics had this enormous participation base, and once the kids got to about 12 years old, they got bored with it and they went and played basketball or football or cricket or whatever it was.
To address this, the league added under 14 and under 17 events to its programs, which they say has seen a substantial increase in participation numbers and Bay Sheffield entrants over the past few years.
South Australia is the first state in Australia to do it. Victoria are slowly doing it this season for the first time. But we really do have a goal of rolling out the program that we've been doing and rolling that out nationally.
On Saturday, Jamari is hoping to follow in the footsteps of former stablemate and two-time Bay Sheffield winner Jordan Caldeau, who'll return to South Australia from Queensland to compete in the race. But he's also set his eyes on a bigger prize.
As far as it can take me, if I make the Olympics one day, that'd be great.
But for now, the focus is on the Bay Sheffield title. Joe Sullivan, ABC News, Adelaide.
Let's move on to domestic cricket now, and Adelaide has returned home atop the Big Bash League ladder after a thrilling away win over Sydney Thunder last night. Tearaway paceman Shaun Tate prevented the Mike Hussey-led Thunder from pulling off what would have been a drought-breaking victory.
The script had been drafted for the Thunder to notch up its first win since December 2011. Sent in, the Strikers made steady ground and finished with what appeared to be a pass score of 153.
And he goes through mid-off. That is super batting. That's a great last over by the Strikers.
The visitors landed several blows early in the Thunder's chase.
It's going back. The point man's on it. Takes the catch.
Enter Michael Hussey. The former Australian international was all class, amassing 85 and dispatched the attack to all parts of the ground, showing a particular liking for Shaun Tate.
Brilliantly played.
The 38-year-old looked set to guide the Thunder home, needing 10 to win from the final over. But Tate struck back on the second-to-last ball, stealing the win.
Oh! That is high! It's not long enough. It's man under it. Bunter takes the catch.
I suppose it shows we've got a bit of fight and a bit of guts in us. and I think we're pretty well drilled. This is probably one of the most well drilled teams I've been a part of.
The Strikers are unbeaten after 2 rounds and will play their first home match against the Perth Scorchers on New Year's Eve. Joe Sullivan, ABC News.
Let's move on to the A-League now, and Adelaide United's form line continues to track upwards with a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Newcastle United at Hindmarsh Stadium this afternoon. The Reds created numerous chances, but Bruce Yates was the only successful strike.
On a glorious afternoon in Adelaide, both teams looked eager to make the most of the conditions. Red striker Bruce Jitte showed his appetite for the contest early.
Might break here for Jitte. Out comes Birighitti. It's a decent collision between the two former teammates.
The Reds landed the best blow, finishing off a goalmouth scramble in the 27th minute.
Goggin for Birighitti. Jitte must score, and he does! Bruce Jitte opens the scoring for Adelaide United.
Down a goal, the Jets crudely vented their frustration, which threatened to spill over.
Karuska is taken out by Taylor Regan. The crowd baying for blood.
A yellow card for Newcastle defender Taylor Regan did little to quell tensions. Nor did the break, as Newcastle continued its physical approach. Geronimo's tangle earned him his 5th yellow of the season, and he'll miss the Reds' next match against Sydney. Looking for a spark, Newcastle manager Gary Van Egmond went to his international star Emil Heskey. The physicality remained, and Reds playmaker Marcelo Karuska eventually succumbed after several skirmishes with a suspected groin strain. It didn't deter Adelaide, as the Reds looked to extend their advantage late in the match.
And Birighitti gets a clutch, and what a save for Birighitti in the end.
The Reds held on for their 3rd clean sheet and 3rd win of the season. Joe Sullivan, ABC News, Adelaide.
Dozens of Australia's best vision-impaired cricketers have come together for the biennial National Blind Cricket Championships, which have begun in Adelaide. As Joe Sullivan reports, it's a tournament that carries the competitive spirit of the Ashes.
For these cricketers, this competition is just as fierce as any other. Sledging included.
There's tons of rivalry. We're all good mates off the field, on the field, as normal cricket. Tons of sledging, good banter, all good fun, but it's serious. Everyone's out there to win.
The 32nd National Championships have brought together the best blind cricketers from South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. They've begun playing each other in 40-over matches, with the ACT to join them for a 2020 component in the new year. Matches follow most cricket conventions, with modified rules allowing for varying degrees of blindness. While the ball must be bounced underarm, some bowlers can still manipulate sideways movement.
The international ball we play with for the T20 internationals, you can put swing and spin on that really quite easy.
For one Victorian, this year's tournament also notches up a special century, 100 matches at national level, a feat reserved for the sports elite.
Just being able to keep playing and playing and playing doesn't necessarily mean you're any good, but I've been playing at national level for 23 years, so it's a good milestone to bring up.
It's not an easy event to organise. It's important venues aren't too noisy.
Most of your blind cricketers, they go by sound, even if they have partial sight. So one of the high selection criterions is a reasonably quiet place. And then leading up to that, you have to be able to make sure that the players are able to orientate themselves.
National selectors are keeping watch, with an Australian team to be selected to tour Sri Lanka in April and then begin work on a World Cup campaign at the end of 2014. Joe Sullivan, ABC News, Adelaide.
In cricket, the Adelaide Strikers finished 2013 on top of the Big Bash ladder after a strong win over the Perth Scorchers at the Adelaide Oval last night. Opening batsman Michael Klinger carried his bat in leading the Strikers to victory, leading to calls for him to be selected in the national team.
In their first home match of the tournament, on the final day of the year, the 26,000-strong crowd came for the cricket, only to see the fireworks spark early.
You have to hurry. Hits the stumps. I think he's in trouble, Marsh. I think he's in big trouble.
A sharp start by the strikers in the field saw Scorchers' wickets tumble consistently, although Nathan Coulter-Niles' late, lusty blows helped prop up Perth's total to a competitive 159. In reply, Michael Klinger showed his intent from the first ball.
The gap straight away, so Klinger's away with a boundary. Beautiful shot through the offside.
Adelaide's leading run scorer anchored the innings and continued his impressive start to the Big Bash. Scorchers spinner Michael Beer sent a message with an arm ball to Strikers captain Johan Botha, but it didn't deter Klinger from amassing 86. He put an exclamation point on the victory by launching the winning runs into the crowd with an over to spare.
Klinger, one more time for the night, and the party can start early at the Adelaide Oval.
Klinger's teammates are hoping national selectors are taking note.
Yeah, Max is in good form as well at the moment. He's pretty unlucky not to be playing for Australia, I reckon.
But the 33-year-old says there's a need for greater consistency if the Strikers are a chance at taking the title.
If we can put a whole sort of 40-over game, 20 each side together, I think we're going to be a seriously dangerous team.
But it'll be the Strikers who will carry the momentum into Sunday's clash with the Sydney Sixers at the Adelaide Oval. Joe Sullivan, ABC News, Adelaide.